I am live in Grand Bahama in Marco City with Miss Irma, and she's 85 years old, and she just got a message for the young people. What you got to say to the young people, Miss Irma?
I just wanted to apologize to y'all because at 85, all my years, I didn't know what I know now, what Mr. Bain talking about. I didn't know. And I am so sorry. I apologize to y'all. But y'all listen to Mr. Bain. God sent him to free us. Really free us.
So you didn't know about the natural resources?
Didn't know about the natural resources. And right here in Grand Bahama, didn't know what was
You
going
thought we
on.
ain't had none.
Child,
So you couldn't fight for us if you didn't
couldn't
know.
fight. Didn't know. Didn't know.
But now we know we got to fight, right?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh,
we can
yeah.
fight in honor of you.
Yes, sir.
You
Thank
work hard in this line, and we can fight for you.
Thank you.
Ms. Irma was F&M all from 1972. She voted PLP once in 68. And from 72 to now, she was F&M. But this time, she decided to be COI. Why you want to be COI?
Yeah.
Because I know the truth now. And the Bible says the truth will set you free. So I'm free. You know?
Yes.
Thank you. We can fight this fight for you. They say the old people stuck in their ways and they're not catching on. But I tell you, the majority of the elderly people, they now see the truth. And they are going to help us to bring that change. Thank
Well, she
you.
tell us about there was a gate between Freeport and 8 Mile Road.
Yes, it was.
You sure?
Yeah, man. In the 70s, I think it was.
Oh.
When they first opened.
They put a gate up.
They put a gate up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, we could break down all those gates and all
Thank
those
you.
barriers, and we are going to deliver this country back to the Bahamian people. Thank you, Ms. Irma.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you too. Thank
Well, Mr. Lincoln Bain, I had to agree with you. I had to wait to agree with you until this shit happened. Well, I started working in the construction sector, and as you could see, I off today. I don't have nothing to do anymore because the Haitians get all the work now. The Haitians get all the construction jobs. So if you was a carpenter and you was work for 200 a day or even 150, you can't make that no more because the Haitians working for 100. So I understand what you're saying, Lincoln. I used to paint now, and I actually do helper work, but I can't get a helper spot right now because too much Haitians on the job. There's nowhere for me to work. But they say that the young Bahamian men lazy, they don't want to work, but this is why I ain't to work. And I used to skilled painter, and it's hard for me to go on the site and find a skilled painter job because anywhere I go, they like $80 a day. Like, I'm a skilled painter, I want my tools. Why you trying to give me? I just give him $80 a day. Hey boss, just make it. Yeah, I make it $80 a day. Oh, that's why, because Haitians taking over. That's it.
We live in a country where more than 70% of those who are a part of our educational enterprise are the children of illegal immigrants. We have a problem that needs to be addressed. Brethren and sisters, there is a humane way, yes. There is a need for labor force, yes. But we are in an age where in a particular school in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, children of illegal immigrants lift up a particular flag and dare Bahamian students to pass that way because they declare that is their territory. This is what we are up against. And unless somebody is brave enough to say that
Amen.
has to be done,
Amen. Right, Seton.
what happens? For after all, we fought for the Bahamas, for Bahamians, and after 57 years, there ought to be a Bahamian people who are prepared to take charge and to decree and declare that while we celebrate what others have done and while we sympathize with the plight of others, we do not do so at our own peril, for we cannot cut off our nose to spite our face.
If they just kept operating according to what was acceptable and what was the standard, black people would never be liberated. If it were not for operating outside of the box and breaking rules, we would not be celebrating 50 years in an independent Bahamas. Y'all talk to me now. I'm talking revolution. in order to access the rights, the privileges, and benefits we enjoy today, our founding fathers in this country had to push the envelope, break some rules, and challenge the system. That's why you have the benefits you have. Because most people who are opposed to change are those who selfishly benefit from the way things currently are. Even at the expense, in most cases, Roberta, of the majority. So I don't want nothing change because I living off this. I benefiting from this. This working for me. It don't matter that all of y'all suffering and struggling and going through and can't make it. Keep it the way it is. Because as far as I am concerned, I good with this. I could pay my bills. Who cares about yours? Things happening for me. I could fly where I want to fly, do what I want to do. I could build a couple homes and have property on every island. Why change things? Keep it the way it is. Most people who fight change are benefiting from the way things are. We all lived in this country, but only a few privileged individuals benefited, while everyone else suffered and struggled. But it took men with a mind to function outside of the unjust norm to break the oppressive power that held us captive. It took men of courage and strength to confront injustice and usher in a new day in the Bahamas, giving us the right to enjoy the blessings we now enjoy as Bahamians, that in my opinion, however, still does not go far enough. Enough of us are not benefiting. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, that the kind of leadership we need now in the Bahamas is the kind that is willing to once again upset the status quo and begin to carve out what the next 50 years should look like by introducing new and radical ideas that are as revolutionary as the ideas of majority rule and independence was 50 years ago. Y'all understanding me? Majority rule was a radical idea. Independence was a radical idea because that was the system. Minority rule was the system. So the idea that we can govern ourselves was a radical idea. But it is what led to our liberty, our prosperity, our freedom. It could have resulted in some very scary repercussions. But thank God he saw us through. But we cannot get so comfortable in this country that we stop pushing the envelope, challenging ourselves and confronting restrictive and oppressive ideas that the original intent of our forefathers, which was the realization of the Bahamian dream for all, continue to evade us as a people. I appreciate the tourism numbers and the rebound of the economy after the pandemic, but something still ain't right. I know y'all ain't gonna like me, that's fine. Y'all ain't called me. Something still ain't right. And I stand as a prophetic voice with no ties on no side to say something still ain't right. And y'all know it, but nobody want to challenge the system. Because we don't have bad men and women as much as we have a system that is not designed to prosper the masses. So sometimes it ain't just about changing the people, because we keep changing the people and getting the same results. But we need a revolution that changes the system, so no matter who you put in there, they govern by the system, and there must be prosperity and liberty. Why y'all ain't saying nothing to me? Because some of y'all benefiting from the way things are now. So you don't want me ruffle no feathers. Leave that alone, Pastor. I ain't come to be a politician, but I am a prophet, and I want to declare that in the Bahamas, a generation is rising up that ain't gonna sit down and allow what has been to continue, because revolutionaries are getting ready to rise up and declare we want our things too. If I'm preaching and you could feel me in the Holy Ghost, I just need to hear the lion roar tonight. Help me, Lord.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, breaking news, you are rich. That's the headline. You, if you are Bahamian, you are rich. And the other headline is you've had someone stealing from you since you've been alive. You've had somebody stealing your wealth, stealing your country's resources, and trying to steal your future. The good news is we are now on to the trick. And so our job is to make sure that we get it back to you. That's what tonight is about, educating you so you are aware of what's been happening. And then you can decide whether you want them to get the child Sanders cane or you want them to go to jail. Because this is nothing short of criminal, that our country has been doing this for years, and our people are still suffering, and we are not doing anything. See, in case you don't understand, here's my issue. Here's my issue. The Bahamas, God placed this here. God placed this archipelago of islands here, strategically, right where it is in the world, because he knew that it would be a literal paradise. He also knew that he would equip in the Commonwealth of Bahamas everything this nation would need, that its people would be wealthy and not have to depend on anybody for anything. That's why he put fish in the ocean, natural resources in the earth, so that we can be able to have access to our own wealth and not depend on people to give us handouts. That's what the good Lord did for you. That's why I always tell people, if you are part of the Bahamas, you are designed by God to be blessed. He blessed you so much to give you a country like this that is so rich. The world knows the riches of the Bahamas. So if you're a Bahamian, your hat's off to you. You are the apple of God's eye. The problem is, we've not been living like that. The problem is, we've not operated in our God-given kingdom authority. Why? Because we thought only pirates were stealing from us. We thought only the British were stealing from us, and didn't recognize the people who were stealing from us were right among us. Because they recognized the wealth when they got into powers of governance. They recognized what this country had access to, and they said, shh, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. We can't let this get out. We can't let this get out. We can't let people know about this. We got to keep this. Got to keep this. Got to keep this. Got to protect this. And so foreigners just come in and say, oh yeah, we wear what you have. We want to be able to manufacture what you have, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. And so they've made their companies multi-billion-dollar companies. It's on the stock exchange. You can see it. Made their companies rich off the Bahamas. Do you think they're just making their companies rich off the Bahamas, and somebody who's allowing them to do it has not been able to say, okay, we got you, we got you. Now I'm starting to wonder where all of this wealth coming from that you can't trace back to certain people and certain people over the years of power. Now time you wonder why you look and you check people's bank accounts. You say, oh, okay, well, you can't see no foreign deal, no fixed deal here. But what's happening? Oh, the money perhaps are in offshore accounts, offshore banks. And they're getting funds, perhaps, to allow a practice that for years have raped the Bahamian people while the people suffer, while people die because they can't afford health care, while people die because they have no food to eat, while people die because their electricity is getting turned off all the time, while people are dying because they cannot afford to live in this Bahamas, when all around us is wealth. Vaughn Miller.
Let me substantiate a lot of what you just said. In 1967, January 10th, historic day, black majority rule. The Progressive Liberal Party won the government. Shortly thereafter, I'm not sure exactly what year it was, but if my research serves me correctly, they met aragonite mining.
BahamianEvolution.com. Welcome to the New Bahamas. This is a Bahamas where our people are being truthfully informed on everything that this territory has to offer. We are rising up and seeking truth. We have been exposed to the plethora of opportunities for wealth that this land can provide, and we are committed to the thorough investigation of such opportunities. We know that the Bahamas is the wealthiest nation on this earth, and it is time that Bahamians learn the power of this land gifted to us by God. In this video, we investigate the Bahamas' most valuable asset, sand. Most of us think of it as a complementary ingredient to the perfect beach day. Yet, those seemingly insignificant grains of sand surround our daily lives. Sand is the third most used resource in the world, third only to water and air.
We use it even more than oil. We use it to make food, wine, toothpaste, glass, computer chips, breast implants, cosmetics, paper, paint, and plastics.
The most prominent use of sand is construction. Every house, skyscraper, and glass window, every bridge, airport, and sidewalk in our modern society depends on sand.
Cement is the lime and clay-based glue that sticks everything together. And concrete is the final result that you walk on, drive on, and live inside. Concrete is made of 10% cement, 15% water, and 75% sand. The concrete required to build a house takes on average about 200 tons of sand. A hospital uses about 3,000 tons, and a mile of highway requires 15,000 tons.
So you can imagine the huge role that sand plays in our quality of life. Collectively, we consume around 50 billion tons of sand annually.
The market for sand is huge, and the aggregate industry is booming. The Sandmen have not been affected by the economic downturn, and they are predicting steady growth of the demand.
Business is doing very good. I think it is going to grow in the future, and the reason for it is people still traveling down the roads. They got to be replaced. Bridges have to be replaced. People still want to have nice houses, office buildings.
The demand for sand is great. So great that the world's supply of sand is quickly diminishing. All easily exploited, low-cost sources of this priceless commodity have already been depleted. And so, all remaining sand will be dredged from one source.
Sand is not something that's easily found like you might think it is. It used to be that you'd have a sand and gravel deposit, and you'd simply go and dig it up out of the ground, so you'd have sand to make your roads, bridges, and buildings out of. But that type of material has all been taken away. It's gone. We've used it already.
From now on, most of the sand required to satisfy our bloated appetite will be found beneath the ocean. And the workhorse of the industry is a dredger, a giant tanker equipped with a suction arm that can pump huge quantities of sand to the surface.
And so if the new source of aragonite is going to be the ocean, what better place to mine it than the Bahamas? The government of the Bahamas has done studies and they have determined that there is no economic opportunity for aragonite in the Bahamas. One of the reasons being that despite the fact that we have large amounts of aragonite in the Bahamas, that it is not renewable. But how could this be true? There's no place in the world that has more sand in their oceans than the Bahamas. And the Bahamas is known for the purest type of aragonite. However, the government have done their studies, and this is what they have to say.
The Ministry of the Environment will be presenting a white paper to Cabinet on aragonite, following a study that the Minister of the Environment, the Honorable Ramal Ferreira, says is currently being conducted to determine its economic value and sustainability. He says the Bahamas is the only place found with aragonite deposits. And while it's used as a source of calcium carbonate, there are other sources, including marble, chalk, and limestone. The Environment Minister says, depending on where aragonite is found, it can take as much as 100 to 2,000 years for just one grain to form. Minister Ferreira says the ministry will put forth recommendations for the sustainable use of aragonite, particularly because it's not sustainable over a human lifetime.
We have to be very careful about how we manage it, and we also have to be very careful about the policies that we put in place for the extraction and utilization of it. So we're not saying that it can't be utilized. We're saying that we have to make sure that the policies are in place such that, because there's very little wiggle room. So even though it's found throughout the Bahamas, even though there are large deposits of them, we still need to understand in terms of the total sand budget what's happened with this, how it's being formed, where it's going. What we can see from the studies thus far is that the Bahamas can definitely earn more royalties, but it will not make everybody a billionaire.
What is most interesting about this interview is that the minister is speaking as if aragonite is not already being mined in the Bahamas, as if we don't already have years of experience in this field. The fact of the matter is, aragonite has been mined in the Bahamas since the 1960s. Yes, since the 1960s. And so the mining of aragonite is not a new phenomenon in the Bahamas. We know exactly where the aragonite is. We know exactly the economic impact of the aragonite. Nonetheless, 3 months later, this is what he had to say.
Also making national news, several aragonite studies have been conducted here in the Bahamas to determine its economic value. Environment Minister, the Honorable Ramal Ferreira, talks about a research exercise being conducted.
I think there's about a dozen sites throughout the Bahamas to determine the amount of aragonite throughout the Bahamas and to determine how fast the aragonite is precipitating, because aragonite is a form of calcium carbonate or a source of calcium carbonate that precipitates out of the ocean. So you have studies that, and what those studies determine is that the quantities are vast, but different locations throughout the Bahamas have different precipitation rates or different rates of formation. And those rates of formation vary between 150 years and 2,000 years.
And so after 3 months of study, the Ministry of Environment has come to the conclusion that we have lots of aragonite in the Bahamas, but the industry is not doable because aragonite is not renewable, because it takes up to 2,000 years for one grain of sand to be formed. Yes, that's what he said, up to 2,000 years for one grain of sand to be formed. He further went into the media and equivocally stated that the aragonite industry in the Bahamas is only worth $2.5 million. Yes, you heard correctly. He said that the entire aragonite industry in the Bahamas is only worth $2.5 million. This leaves well-thinking Bahamians to have to wonder, is there something that the government is trying to hide? Is there someone that the government is trying to hide it for? Because if the industry is only worth $2.5 million, then why have people been mining aragonite since the 1960s and heavily commercially for the last 40 years? Why has that been if there's no money in it? Mining aragonite is an expensive endeavor, so why would someone spend the kinds of money they do to dredge if it's only worth $2.5 million? And that caused our investigative team to start digging. And so we started dredging for the truth. And boy, did we find the truth. And so we became very curious about what the Minister of Environment might have been hiding. And so the first thing we wanted to do was to follow the money. And the first thing we had to find out was, who was it that was digging aragonite in the Bahamas all this time? And where was our aragonite going? It's a good question. When aragonite leaves the Bahamas, where does it go and what happens with it? So in our investigations, we found out that persons only paid about $2 a metric ton. A metric ton is about 2,204 pounds. So they paid about $2 for a metric ton of aragonite, of sand. And we wanted to know, where was this sand going? Was this going to fill up beaches in Florida? What were they doing with our sand? What we found will blow your mind. So our investigators took a little trip to the internet, and we found a curious little website, an interesting little company that actually sells aragonite. But they sell an aragonite of a special kind. It's not just any aragonite. This is what they call the high grade aragonite. This is the good stuff. And not only are they selling it across America and the world, but they're also selling it right on the internet. It was so easy to find what's happening with our aragonite. I wonder why the government couldn't find this out. And so after combing through all of those government files and finding all of these companies, many companies in this aragonite business, some of them seem to be shell companies, but there are so many companies in this business, we came across this little website, this beautiful little website. Look at the beautiful beach on it. Doesn't that look familiar? Well, of course it should. That's a beach in the Bahamas. This website is called Calcium Renewable Biogenic. This is their home page, and they're moving towards a renewable world. And they are talking about what they sell, and that is oolitic aragonite sand. And the first thing they say about aragonite is that it is renewable, it is sustainable, and it is biogenic. Wow! The Minister of Environment must not know about this. They must not have gone to this part of Google to see what is being promoted about our aragonite. Look, it says Calcium is changing the way we look at natural resources and their incorporation into familiar products and industries. Calcium utilizes renewable biogenic calcium carbonate derived from oolitic organic sand originating in the Bahamas. Wow! And so this is where our aragonite has been going. And so they are saying that it is renewable. Not only is it from the Bahamas, it is renewable. And so this is our aragonite. It's called oolitic aragonite. And it says, oolitic aragonite is a renewable and sustainable source resource. Wow. It naturally forms on the banks of the Bahamas during natural precipitation events called whitings. During these events, blooms of cyanobacteria sequester carbon from the atmosphere, and a mineralization process occurs, forming oolitic aragonite. So they're saying that we have lots of aragonite, and not only do we have lots of aragonite, it's renewable. Oolitic aragonite is a versatile renewable source that provides a number of benefits over standard mine ground calcium carbonate. Calcium offers a number of oolitic aragonite-based products ranging from aquarium substrates to play sand. So this is what they're doing with our aragonite. They're using it for many different things. So our Bahamas aragonite is used for aquariums, reptiles, poultry, play sand, agriculture, and plastics. So there's many uses that this company alone uses for our aragonite. This company is making major money from our aragonite. While our government is researching to see what we can do with the aragonite, a quick Google search would have shown them that our aragonite is already being used around the world. Right now, it's being used for raw materials. This is amazing. It says Calcium, creator of Sandy Cal, aragonite sand, and Ocean Cal, these are two of the products, powder, is reinventing the way we think about natural resources. Don't we need to rethink the way we think about natural resources in the Bahamas? And their incorporation into familiar products and industries. From agriculture to plastic, Calcium utilizes renewable biogenetic calcium carbonate derived from an oolitic organic sand originating in the Bahamas. And so I decided to keep scrolling this website, and as I scrolled this website, I found even more interesting stuff. Like over here, I went to the blog page, and look, they have information about our aragonite. It says oolitic aragonite is a unique type of biogenic calcium carbonate. It naturally forms on the banks of the Bahamas on a sustainable and renewable basis. They keep emphasizing the fact that this is sustainable and renewable despite what the Minister of Environment has been saying. It's like he's trying to hide something. It's like they don't want us to know that there is this amazing natural resource out there that lots of money can be made from, and they don't want the public to know it. Notice what he said at the end of his interview. He said, well, we're not going to become billionaires from it, but we're going to challenge that, right? He says, due to its renewable nature, it is an environmentally responsible alternative. They are saying that there is good aragonite and there's some fake stuff out there. That's what it said at the beginning. It says, don't get caught up buying fake oolitic aragonite. And so they're trying to tell you that the Bahamas stuff is the good stuff. It says, unfortunately, however, there are many substrates out there that are all a bit of smoke and mirrors. They masquerade as oolitic aragonite, but under close inspection, they are either coral sand or just regular calcite sand. Wow, this is amazing. They even give a graph to show you the proper standard of what aragonite should be. And so if you look at this graph, it says, is it oolitic aragonite? Is it sourced from the Bahamas? So if you want to know if it's oolitic aragonite, the first question is it sourced from the Bahamas? That's the question. And so if it's from the Bahamas, it's the good stuff. If it's not, then it's the fake stuff. Wow. So if the answer is no, then it's either it is not oolitic aragonite or it isn't sourced ethically. No. That chicken feed also comes from aragonite. Did you know that chickens can actually lay eggs without mating? Chickens can actually lay eggs without mating. They've actually found that when you feed calcium to chickens, that they can actually lay eggs. And this is why the eggs you buy in the store, they cannot hatch. Because they're not actual fertilized eggs. They're just eggs. And so they feed calcium to the chickens, and that's what makes them lay eggs. And so this is important in the agricultural industry. So our aragonite is feeding chickens around the world, and that is how they are making eggs. When you scroll down, you will see aragonite calcium feed. Also play sand. Play sand for people around the world is made from our aragonite. And so lastly, I just wanted to show you before we get to the next step, where they not only say it throughout their website, but they have a whole tab where they talk about the sustainability of mining aragonite in the Bahamas. And so basically they're claiming that this thing is sustainable, and they repeat what they said. All right, minimizing their overall carbon footprint, naturally renewable, and they repeated the process of whitings. But look down here, they said within our 500 square mile harvesting area, roughly 2 million tons of oolitic aragonite is generated each year. 2 million tons just in this 500 square mile space. Now, let me show you how big the area is that they are mining. They are mining a huge area. The entire New Providence is just 147 square miles. The entire New Providence, where we do everything, where we live, where we mine, where all of this land is still there that we haven't even touched yet in the West. The entire New Providence is only 147 square miles. These guys
are mining an area that is 500 square miles. That is more than 3 times New Providence.
So here's the big question. So this company, like others, reportedly pay about $2 a metric ton for the aragonite. So we want to know, what is the street value of this aragonite? We want to know what happens to this aragonite that our country basically sells for $2 a ton. We want to know up to how much do they get for this on the street. So it's time to really see, where does our aragonite go? And this is it. Look at it. Remember, this is the same packaging that they had on their website. This is their product. And so this is at petbarn.com, petbarn.com. And so this aragonite is what they use for fish aquariums around the world. This is a 9-kilogram bag. And so that is about 20 pounds, just under 20 pounds. So this is a 9-kilogram bag of Aqua Natural Oolitic Aragonite Sand. Look at how much money they're getting for one 20-pound bag. $63 for one 20-pound bag. Let's do the math. And so if it's 9 kilograms, there's 1,000 kilograms in a metric ton. And so if you do the math, 1 metric ton that they paid $2 for is on the market for up to $7,000 they're making off of that $2 metric ton. Surely this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Wow, this is mind-blowing. Of course, in other places we found, like on Amazon.com, it sells for much cheaper. But this is the high end, and this is the end result. So we found this for much less, sometimes half of what we see here. So if it's half of the 7,000, then maybe it's about 3,000 that they can make from that metric ton. If it's a little less than that, maybe it's 2,000. There is no industry in the world that I can think of where that kind of profit can be made. This makes aragonite more valuable than gold, more valuable than diamonds. There's no other product in the world that you can pay $2 a metric ton for and sell for thousands of dollars. Whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7,000, there is no product where this is doable. And so this is a major industry. And this is why we say our aragonite is worth trillions. Okay, so let me put this in perspective for you. Right now, a barrel of crude oil is selling for about $41.68. Okay, and so there's about 42 gallons in a barrel. So that's roughly about $1.01 per gallon. So let's say $1 per gallon. And so that's the raw material. The street value to the gasoline pump is $2.19 per gallon. So they spend $1 on the crude oil, but the final product is $2.19. That's the street value. With aragonite, their cost of the material is $2 per ton. $2 per metric ton. And the street value is up to $7,000 per metric ton. To be fair, in most cases we found it at cheaper, but that is the ultimate price. In some cases we found it at $35 for the bag, and in some cases we found it at $18 per bag, even cheaper. But in any event, that is thousands of dollars per metric ton. You do the math. But this is not even the big story here. The big story is what is on the packaging. And we've been showing you the packaging all this time. But we really want to show you what's really on this packaging. And so we're going to zoom into this packaging and show you what you have not been seeing on this packaging. It's mind-blowing. Let's do a little close-up.
Now, look at this packaging. Isn't that beautiful packaging? Look at the blue and the light blues and the cute little fishy. Look at Nemo. Nemo is playing around with our aragonite. But a closer look will show you what's really going on in the Bahamas. What the government is really hiding and pretending not to know. Wow, look at that. If you read carefully, a closer look will show you the truth. It says genuine marine aragonite from the Bahamas. Wow, they are actually advertising on their packaging, not just on their website, that this is genuine marine aragonite from the Bahamas. This is our aragonite. This is the aragonite that our government doesn't seem to know that it exists. Oh my God, it does exist. But wait, there's more. It says ethically harvested under lease from the Bahamian government. Wow, they are putting that on the packaging. Can you imagine? Not just is it genuine marine aragonite from the Bahamas, they are also putting right on the front of the packaging that it is ethically harvested under lease from the Bahamian government. Right on the packaging. Wow. And so they are selling our sand and using our country's name to sell our sand. And our government is saying that they're going to have to do research and find out if there's a market out there, if there's any way to make money from this aragonite, because somehow we really don't know that there's a market out there, and we don't know that they're selling our aragonite right now. This is presently on the market, on Amazon, on Chewy.com, on PetBarn.com. This stuff is being sold all over the internet and on the ground right now and in pet stores all over America right now as we speak, our aragonite. But wait, there's more. Turn over to the back of the product and then you'll actually see. And so in the back it says, Bahamian sand is raw, naturally renewable marine aragonite sand. And it is 98% pure calcium carbonate. In other words, we have the good stuff. And so to be honest, our products are all over the internet, all over. Here we find on Amazon.com. If you look carefully, you will see the same product, the Aqua Natural. You can see that it's selling for about $35. So at this price, that means that they're making $3,895, so $3,900 per metric ton. That's what they're making because it's $35 for a 20-pound bag. And so our products are all over the internet. And it's not just that stuff. It's so many different products. Look, there's sand. They're selling play sand. But look at the name of the play sand. Just look at the name. Baja Play Sand by Sandy Key. We've heard that name in the news recently. But we'll come back to that. Baja Play Sand. They're even using our name. Look at it. Oh, isn't that cute? Baja Play Sand. And it is selling for $21.19 per bag. And so at that price, that's about $2,450 per metric ton that they're making for this metric ton that they paid $2 for. And so again, look what it says on the back. It says it right there. Bahamian aragonite sand possesses numerous advantages, making it a superior play sand. So again, the Bahamas product is being sold as the superior product. It goes on. Bahamian aragonite is an ideal play sand material that is both safe for your child and environmentally friendly. It is pure aragonite sand, ethically and sustainably harvested from the crystal clear oceans of the Bahamas. This is phenomenal, and it is a phenomenal business, and it is definitely and clearly a business that can make lots and lots of money for the Bahamas and for the Bahamian people. And so what we need to know is, so who are the persons making money from the selling of our aragonite? And why is the Minister of Environment pretending not to know that there is already a vibrant industry? Why are they making it seem like they have to go and research to see if there can be a vibrant industry? Why weren't they telling us this? Why weren't they telling us that our sand is being sold all over the world right now and being packaged? Not just used for things like building and concrete and that kind of stuff, but being sold in beautiful little packages right now. And so what we want to do is find out who is behind all of this. Who is behind Chalcedon? And we see some very interesting players in the game. And we see some other connected companies connected apparently to players in this game. And so our search took us all the way to the good old state of Alabama. And so that's where we found the owners of Chalcedon, this company that is advertised on the internet, that has a big warehouse down there in Alabama. And we found who is behind this company. We wanted to know who these Alabamians were, who were benefiting from our sand and selling it all over the world and apparently making a lot of money. And so as we searched, we came up with their address. We found where they're located, and they're registered as a foreign limited liability company. That's interesting. You can see that they were registered in Delaware, and we can see that this particular company formed in 2014. All right, and it's owned by none other than Anthony Myers. That name looks familiar. He's definitely someone that does business in the Bahamas. We know that name, Anthony Myers. He's been in the Aragonite business for many, many years. In fact, he is also one of the principals at Bahama Hot Mix, a very well-known company connected to Brent Simonet. Wow, and his brother, Craig Simonet. And so these are Bahamians. And so Brent Simonet is in government, so he knows about Aragonite. He knows what's going on. This mining has been going on for a long time. We have seen Brent Simonet has been in the aggregate business for quite some time. We saw what they did to the hills just south of the East Street roundabout. They tore down all of those hills, sold the aggregate, and then they built a shopping center. Anthony Myers is behind this company. Wow. So the truth is, we found many companies that are dealing with Aragonite from the Bahamas. And so it's strange to us to see that the government seems to not know that Aragonite is really already a big business in the Bahamas. It's strange to us to see that they feel that they have to go and investigate this to see if it is a viable business when it is already a business that has been going on for quite some time. Why are they acting like they don't know about this? Like the young people say, they think they slick. This is documentation of another company, and this is CACO3 Aragonite Products Inc. And this is another company that does Aragonite. They're also known as, and here you can see their name, CAC Aragonite Products Inc. And they're also known as a different company, but first I'll show you what they do. They said that they registered in Florida to purchase, sell, market, distribute, import, and export Aragonite and calcium carbonate mineral products. And it says this company is also known as Ocean Key Aragonite Limited and is located in Boca Raton, Florida. And so this company deals with Aragonite from Ocean Key in the Bahamas, and they are located in Boca Raton. And you can see the name here is Jason Myers. And of course, this one is spelled with an E. So we did some research on this Jason Myers, and we see that he also spells his name without the E after the M. And he also has a very close relative. I'll pull it up. We can see that this is the same Jason Myers. And we can see that he also spells his name without the E, one of his aliases after the M. And you can see it says that he's the COO of CA303 Aragonite Products. And when we looked at his related people, his family members, you can see that there's a Barbara and maybe a parent, Myers, that is spelled without the E. And so this definitely is the same person. That we don't know their connection, but it seems to be a lot of companies that have interest. We found so many companies as we searched. We can't show you all of them because it would make this too long. but we found so many companies and players in the game that are dealing with aragonite from the Bahamas. It's pretty amazing. We even found where some persons patented. This is the United States Patent Office. Persons actually found our aragonite so valuable that in 1996 they patented our aragonite. They tried to patent our aragonite the way that they produce it and sell it. They filed for a patent of the aragonite. This is how valuable aragonite is. Aragonite is so valuable that they're trying to patent the way they produce it so that they can make a lot of money from this. And so while the government is trying to say that they don't really know if this is viable and maybe they're interested and they'll look into it, this is already going on. It's been going on. And what's so interesting is that right here, 1996 is when they patented this, and in 1997 is when we changed our laws in the Bahamas to make it illegal for you to take sand from the beach. So ironically, they filed for a patent in 1996, and here you can see in 1997 we commenced an act for the conservation and protection of physical landscape of the Bahamas. Subject to the provisions of this act, no person shall, for a commercial purpose, dig up, remove, or carry away from any part of the beach or seashore in the Bahamas any sand, earth, or stones. And so this is where you are prohibited to remove sand from the beach. And of course, right after this act was put into play, we see that the dredging of sand and aragonite went into full drive. They went heavy into this. So it would seem like this act was not to protect the landscape of the Bahamas. I think it was to protect the business of those who are in that business. It was to make it so that they have to give you a permit in order to dredge sand. And that's what this act did. And so finally, our investigative team just wanted to take a look at our oceans to see exactly where our aragonite is and how much of it there is. And this is what they discovered.
When you hear them talk about aragonite, we haven't touched the Great Bahama Bank. All of these is shallow where you could fill, where you could just suck up sand. Ocean Key, right here. Right? This is what we gave away. But when we give this away, remember what they said? Let's go back to the agreement for the Ocean Key agreement. This was built, and this is where Ocean Key we give MSC. Here's the problem when you give MSC. Look at this island and look at all the aragonite. Now, just for the area of this area in 1970, you would see that the aragonite, before the value was determined, it was said that it was worth $15 billion here. So the question is, if this aragonite is no longer here, who moved the $15 billion worth of aragonite away from here? All this white area you see up here is aragonite also. Okay? So when they say you don't have any, all of this is aragonite. Anybody will tell you in the Little Bahama Bank, it's a shallow area, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. All this is aragonite that falls over the ledge right here. Those sandstorms that come from the Sahara Desert is one of the best things that ever happened to the Bahamas, because it dropped the chemicals and nitrates and everything. No one can explain how aragonite appears in the Bahamas. Literally speaking, aragonite is in every seawater around the world. But for some reason, when it passes through the Bahamas, it falls out of the water. Just falls out. But it also falls out in these blue areas. The problem that in some areas of these blue areas, these are like a mile deep. So there's trillions of dollars of aragonite over millions of years that has been deposited in these deep areas. And so even if you go down here to Andres, look at this right here. This is the Great Bahama Bank. All that white is aragonite and calcium carbonate. Look at the whole United States. You see any white? Any whitey? Right? Look at the other countries in the Caribbean. Go around the world. Go around the world and look. Only the Bahamas that you have, look at the deposits. This is where we get shallow banks. The shallow banks is because so much aragonite has been deposited. This just could literally be vacuumed up. So when you talk about aragonite flowing through Andres, or the point that they wanted right here, right? This is where you have the aragonite, but they wanted this right here. This is where in Andres, this is the tongue of the ocean, a mile deep. You see these shelves right here? All of these shelves right here is where aragonite flows straight down and deposited on the shelves. So there's not an issue of aragonite. The issue about aragonite is what is called sustainable harvesting.
And there you have it, Bahamas. Irrefutable evidence that the aragonite business in the Bahamas is possibly a multi-trillion-dollar business. Can it make every Bahamian a billionaire? Maybe. Can it make every Bahamian a millionaire? Definitely. And so now you know that the aragonite business has been flourishing for many, many years in the Bahamas. Many persons have made a lot of money off of our aragonite. In fact, our aragonite is on the market right now, being sold, being packaged, and we have the good stuff. We have the kind of aragonite that everyone in the world wants and everyone in the world needs. We know that construction is not going anywhere. Our aragonite is the best aragonite for construction. We know that our sand is the best sand for construction. We know that our sand is the best sand for glass and every other thing that they make. It is time for a new Bahamas and a new type of Bahamians. What are we proposing? We propose that Bahamians benefit from our natural resources. We're proposing what has happened in other countries. Look at what has happened in other countries like Norway, like Qatar, Kuwait. Like in these countries, the government would form a company. The company would be run privately, separate from the government. And of course, the profits made from these companies would be invested. The profits made from the investments would be given back to the people in many different forms. And sometimes it could be in the form of a check. Sometimes it could be in the form of not having to pay utilities, no electricity, no water bill, etc. We know that we have a natural resource that is extremely valuable and needed all over the world because it is scarce, and that is sand and aragonite. From this natural resource, we can change the outlook of our country. There's no reason that our country should be saying that we are in debt when we have trillions of dollars possibly of this one natural resource. We have more of this natural resource than Saudi Arabia has of oil. Bahamas, it's time to evolve. It's time to evolve in your thinking, to evolve in your mindset, to evolve from workers to owners. Thank you. BahamianEvolution.com. Welcome to the New Bahamas.
The most valuable commodity on earth is not gold or silver, oil or diamonds. The most valuable commodity on earth is land. Why? Because gold, silver, diamonds, and oil come from land. Every business takes place on land, but it's not just what is in or on the land that is so valuable. It is the land itself. In the 80s, while Bahamians were killing themselves to sell cocaine from Colombia, land pirates in the Bahamas were making far more money selling Bahamian dirt. Because our dirt is worth more than gold. Our dirt is the high grade. When you don't know the value of your natural resources, it can easily be taken away from you. Will you sell your birthright for a bowl of soup? This is nothing new. It has been happening for centuries. To the Indians, gold and silver was useless. So it's no surprise that foreigners came in and made them slaves to mine their own resources, then export it. Though he met the Arawaks upon his arrival, Christopher Columbus was credited with the discovery of the Bahamas. He was also credited for discovering America, though he had never set foot on American soil. He wrote about the native Arawaks in his captain's log as well as in a letter. He wrote, "The Indians are so naive and so free with their possessions that no one who has not witnessed them would believe it. When you ask for something they never say no. On the contrary, they offer to share with anyone. They are built well, with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them. For I showed them a sword, they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron, their spears are made of cane."
After speaking so well of the innocent, naive native Bahamians, he continued, "They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want." This was the advent of minority rule, which continues to this day. In part 1 of this series, you learn about sand pirates who have been raping our land of one of the most valuable commodities on earth since the 1960s. In this episode, you will learn about the land pirates who have been stealing our land. The UBP passed laws to empower themselves to steal land legally, but the reason they were stealing the land is the real secret. You thought they were stealing the land to develop subdivisions. The real reason behind the land theft will blow your mind. The Bahamian Evolution team has been investigating these pirates for months. Our team was able to get into a calcine meeting with Allison Myers, the daughter of Anthony Myers and sister of Jason Myers, who we told you about last week. At this meeting, Allison was caught red-handed selling our aragonite that was stolen legally from our oceans. Why do we say stealing legally? Because they used their politician business partners to make deals and pass laws to benefit them. So instead of giving them the aragonite for free, they let them pay a small token amount like $2 per metric ton, just so they can say that they got it ethically and legally. The problem is, corruption is not ethical. In this episode, we are going to show you never before seen documents that show the political connection and backdoor deals. And we will show how our government is constantly outsmarted by these pirates.
Before we get started, we just want to inform you that last week's episode was removed from YouTube. Why was it removed from YouTube? Because Anthony Myers himself contacted YouTube and told them that we were exposing his private business. Now, this is a man who is known to have contracts with the Bahamian government, but he wants his actions to be private. He wants everything to be private. What do these people have to hide? Well, today, since they don't like what we exposed last time, we're going to expose even more today. We're about to show you how these people operate. And this is how politicians hide what they're doing. You see, you can go to the public registry at any time and get information on companies in the Bahamas. So what do? They form companies outside of the Bahamas, outside of your reach, and outside of your prying eyes. And so this is what they do. We're about to show you. So our investigative team flew all the way to the United Kingdom to get the files, to show you exactly how it's done. So this is what they do. So for example here, this is a company, it's called BHM International Group UK Limited. And this is a company that's registered in the United Kingdom. And as we scroll, we're going to find some interesting stuff about this company. We're going to see who the persons are behind this company. And you're going to see that these persons are connected. And here is the connection that you can't see in the Bahamas. Now you're going to see it. So company director number 1, Mr. Anthony David Myers. That's a name that we all know that we've been hearing. He's a British resident and he is the president of this company. But look at company director 2. There you connect the dots. Mr. Andrew Brent Simonet. Yep, Mr. Andrew Brent Simonet. But of course, this is a different Brent Simonet than the one you know as the former Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas. This is his son. And so this is the younger Brent Simonet. But of course, this is what politicians do. They put things in their children's name, in family members' name. This is how they operate so that they can stay under covers. Of course, this is like a man who is about to get divorced and he doesn't want his wife to get the house, so he puts his house in his mama name. And so this is what politicians do. All right, and you can see other persons that are involved. You can see Mr. John Frederick Bethel, and that's the Bethel with 2 L's. So you know that's the money Bethel. And of course, Mr. Peter Newton, and this name, Mr. Craig Roland Simonet. This is the brother of Brent Simonet, of course. And of course, Mr. Ibrahim Saidi. And so this document also shows how much shares each person has, and it shows different companies that are involved with the shares, because what they do is they don't put the shares in their name, they put it in company names. Like Benelli Holdings has a certain amount of shares, Bethel Estates has a certain amount of shares, David Bryce, Donald, who is not a director, has a certain amount of shares, Inglewood Investments. But watch this. Andrew Brent Simonet has shares, and look, the Simonet Group Limited has shares in this company. All right, and so this is how they operate. This is how they're able to get advantage. Of course, we haven't found any exact corruption that these persons have done, but we're just saying that politicians are connected to big business people, and big business people are connected to politicians, and in a lot of cases, that's how they get what they want. That's how they sometimes get these sweetheart deals that no one else can get. Now, on to greater things. So our team, as we said, was able to access a Chalcedon meeting. It was a presentation where they were trying to sell our aragonite.
Hi everyone, this is Allison Myers and my colleague Harold McCurk, and we're from Chalcedon Minerals and Materials. We're located in Gadsden, Alabama, and we harvest oolitic aragonite from the Bahamas. It's a renewable and sustainable resource that we use in agriculture as a liming agent, but it's much more than that. So we own the leasing rights for the oolitic aragonite for harvesting it in the Bahamas. We have a 500 square mile lease. And what we do is it's just naturally forms on the banks of the Bahamas, and we harvest it and move it up to Gadsden, Alabama, and also throughout the Midwest through both Trent and Lynn as well.
Now, what she said is very interesting because this meeting took place in April 2020. Why is that interesting? Because the media reported that their family no longer has the lease to Ocean Key, but she is claiming that they still have this lease. And so this is very interesting. Maybe Ocean Key, the island itself, is gone, but maybe they still have the rights to mine in the ocean, and maybe they are mining somewhere in the ocean not far from there.
That Ocean Key is our lease area, that 500 square mile lease area. The current reserves are about 1 to 2 billion metric tons, and we've calculated the renewal rate to be about 266,000 to 2.3 million metric tons a year. And over the entire Bahamas banks, that's even larger. You know, we have reserves of 50 to 100 billion metric tons and renewing at 14 to 120 million metric tons a year.
I don't know if you know what you just heard, but she just admitted that they have a reserve of up to 2 billion tons of aragonite. Up to 2 billion tons of aragonite. Do you know what that means? Let's do some calculations. 2 billion tons of aragonite times 7,000 is $14 trillion. 2 billion tons of aragonite times 7,000, which is the street value, is up to $14 trillion that they are sitting on. Wow. Allison further stated that by their estimates, the Bahama banks alone has 100 billion tons of aragonite. Up to 100 billion tons of aragonite. Do you know what that means? Let's do some more math. 100 billion tons times 7,000 is $700 trillion. I'm going to repeat that for you. 100 billion tons times up to $7,000, the street value, is $700 trillion. That means that every single man, woman, and child in the Bahamas is extremely wealthy. But how wealthy? You know, we normally we normally say that every Bahamian is a millionaire because we're trying to be conservative and we don't really want you to see the numbers we see because it's so unbelievable. But based on the numbers given by Allison herself, every single Bahamian is a billionaire because 700 trillion divided by 350,000 Bahamians is $2 billion for every single Bahamian. Yes, that is correct. According to these numbers, every single Bahamian can be a billionaire just off of one of our natural resources. Even if you divide it by 2 because the number is too high, that's still $1 billion. Even if you divide that number by 2, that's still $500 million. Every single Bahamian is guaranteed to be a millionaire off of one of our natural resources. So let me show you how wealthy the Bahamas really is. The entire GDP of the United States of America is just over $22 trillion. That's the United States of America. The entire Saudi oil reserves is 258 billion barrels of oil, which translates into about $10 trillion in oil reserves. The Bahamas is truly the wealthiest country in the world, if we can get it together. So the question is, what went wrong? In order to find out what went wrong, why Bahamians aren't benefiting from their natural resources, why the country isn't extremely wealthy from their natural resources, we had to take another road trip. So our investigative team had to take a road trip, but the problem is that airplanes don't go where we have to go for this one. For this one, we're going to need a time machine. And so Allison touched on it in her presentation. She gave you a little clue. Listen.
Back in the 70s, the Amish and Mennonite farmers heavily used aragonite, and they were very, very keen on it. It was their preferred choice. However, in the 70s, we were not the lease owners. It was a prior company that had this lease, and they sold into, the glass markets and also into coal scrubbing.
But it was after the Progressive Liberal Party came to power in 1967. The then premier, the first black premier of the Bahamas, the Prime Minister, the late Lyndon Oscar Pindling, quoted that Aragonite would be the savior of the Bahamian economy. This was pre-independence. This was shortly after we won majority rule. I spoke to a member of the team that traveled to Ocean Cay during this time, and he informed me that they used the term for Aragonite Bahamian gold. And so the expectations were extremely high in terms of how Bahamians would benefit from the production of Aragonite. However, that never happened. Why? All of our minds can go all over the place in terms of trying to figure out why. All of us have our own beliefs as to why.
And so we decided to put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and go digging for the truth. And what we found really disturbed us. What we found was Columbus all over again. We found that it was us. It was our people that gave away the Aragonite to the foreigners. And we found documentation to prove this. We found that, yes, we touted that Aragonite would be the savior of the Bahamas, and then it disappeared. We passed law in order to make this happen, and then it disappeared. So we went and dug up the act that they passed so that we could see what really happened. And we saw that they passed a law to empower a particular company. Well, we found all of the documents involved, including the leases and agreements that were signed by those companies, the original documents with the original signatures. And what we found is going to shock you. It's going to show you how sophisticated investors come in, make deals with our governments, and then outsmart us. And so we went deep into the archives to pull out this document. Actually, it's just an act that was passed. And so in 1969, the Pindling administration passed a law that was assented in 1971. And so the purpose of this law was to encourage the Aragonite industry. But what was discouraging about it was that it was for one company. They went to Parliament, our Parliament, and passed an act to empower one company. And that company is called Ocean Industries Incorporated. And look, you can see the name of that company right there on the document. It says Ocean Industries Incorporated, Aragonite Mining Encouragement. What about our encouragement? And so this says it's an act to encourage the mining by Ocean Industries Incorporated of calcareous deposits known as Aragonite. And so this is for this company. What about us? What about us? And so this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas. And I'm going to speed through this quickly because I just want to show you a couple of things in this document. Then we're going to actually go to the actual document they signed. Look, they got exclusivity. Not only did they only give to this company, but they got exclusivity. And look here, all the rights and privileges hereby granted by the lessor to the tenant, as set forth above, are exclusive to the tenant and shall not be granted by the lessor to any other person. This is something else. It's like we pass laws to help others and not ourselves. And it says, though, and this is where the money for the Bahamas started to come in, and that's because they were supposed to pay royalties, and there was a fixed amount, there was a fixed base fee for royalties that they were supposed to pay, and it's these figures here. But these aren't big figures, so how could we tout this as the savior of the Bahamas? It was because there was supposed to be other royalties paid, which was a percentage of what was made. It was supposed to be a percentage of the profits that were made. So there was supposed to be royalties that were payable, and they were supposed to give an account of all the profits made, and they were supposed to keep accurate records of all the profit made and of their mining, and this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas, y'all. But something happened. It didn't really work. And so we needed to dig deeper to see what went wrong. And so that's when we had to go to a secret lost document that no one has ever seen on TV before, and you're going to be seeing it here for the first time. This is a secret lost document, the actual document that they signed. Our investigative team is amazing. This is a document that you can't even go to the registry and find. This is an amazing document that shows what happened. Okay, and so basically, this is the agreement between our government and Ocean Industries, Inc. And so our government gave them an indenture of lease. And so this is the actual original document. This is a powerful document. And basically it outlines some of the same things that was in the act, with the exclusivity and everything else. And there you can see it has the fee payment and the schedule, etc., etc. But what's interesting about this is the signature page. I want you to pay close attention to who signed this document. It's really important. And this is what's going to help you to understand what really happened and what really has been going on. This is the signature page. And so you can see who signed it. So this is the government officials that signed. And so Francis Cummings, of course, that was the Governor General at the time. And of course, Jeffrey M. Thompson. He was the Minister of Development at the time in the Progressive Liberal Party. I think he passed away in 2008. But look who signed for this other company. Now pay close attention, because this document with these signatures have not been found for years and years and years. It's almost like they were trying to hide this. They didn't want you to see this. So people have seen the regular document, but not the one with signatures, and we're showing it to you for the first time. And so it was signed by Hans Vidar, and that's how you pronounce it. It's spelled V-I-D-E, but it's Hans Vidar. It's how you pronounce it. And so he is the president of this company. Look at his signature, Hans Vidar. All right, and the secretary also signed it, and that's Richard L. Knight. And so they're the ones who signed this document. And so very interesting. Now, in order to understand what really happened, I have to take you to another document that we have not seen for a very long time, and that persons didn't want you to see, because what these guys did was something very peculiar, and it is how they were able to not even have to necessarily pay royalties. Watch this. Okay, now here's another ancient document. Y'all, the new Bahamian is a sharp Bahamian. They're not going to fall for the same old tricks that our forefathers fell for. Look at this. This is a document where Ocean Industries was given the lease to be able to make money from selling the aragonite they got from our ocean bed. What did they do? They went ahead and turned this over, their rights, to another company, and started selling to this other company. They started selling to this other company. Look, they made a deal, and they had an assignment deal with this other company, and this other company is called Ocean Trading Corporation. So pay close attention. Ocean Trading Corporation. This is the original document here. And when I say original, I mean a copy of the original, but this is it. This is not the ones with no signature that you may have seen. This is the document. And so here's the notary, etc., etc. But I'm going to go straight down. To the signature page on this one. All right. And so here's the signature page. And of course, this is the deal that's happening. And look at the deal. So it's Ocean Industries, Inc. And you remember this signature from Hans Vidar. Hans Vidar. So here's the signature again. You remember it. And here is the secretary of Ocean Industries, Inc. that got the deal with the Bahamas government, Richard L. Knight. So that's pretty straightforward. But look who signed for the other company. Wow, that's Hans J. Vidar again. And that's Richard Knight as the secretary of the other company. They are from both companies. They own both companies. So he is the president of this company, and he's the secretary of that company. And so they are from both companies, and they were selling to themselves. What were they really doing? So I'll explain to you what really happened here. What really happened is very easy to understand. Why would they do this? Why would they sell to themselves? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because they had a deal where they were supposed to pay a percentage of their profits. And so they were being charged 6 cents per metric ton at the time. And so they would have to pay a percentage of all of their profits. So what did they do? They have a company in Florida. Their other company is in Florida. So instead of selling to the public and selling to everyone else, they just sell to themselves. So if they have to pay the government 6 cents, if that's their cost, 6 cents per metric ton, then they sell to the other company for 6 cents a metric ton. And guess what? They made no profit. But then they're able through that other company to sell to as many companies as they want. And they can make all the profit they want and not have to actually pay to the Bahamian government. Oh my God. This is amazing. And this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas. And this is the first thing that happened. You see, we're giving you real investigative journalism here and investigative reporting. We're giving you a real documentary here because we have to be, as a Bahamian people, we have to be aware of what's been going on. Something has happened why we can't benefit from our natural resources. And the worst part of this deal is this, that they were assigned certain rights and they were allowed to sublease their rights to allow other people to even come in here and mine in our country. And it even started to list. See, they were able to, without the permission of the Bahamian government, the lessor, or the assigner, which is the other company, they were able to lease to any corporation organized or to be organized under the laws of any state of the United States of America. Oh my God. So our right to mine our aragonite at the time was given away to a foreign company. And that foreign company was able to sign an agreement in order to give it away to any company that was a U.S. company. Not Bahamians. We were out. We're not allowed to benefit from our own natural resources, but any company that is a U.S. company. And even listed some companies that it was going to allow to do it. Alpha Portland Cement Company, Dow Chemical Company, and all of these big companies. This is what has been happening in our country, and we've not been allowed to benefit. And it's time for this to stop. As Bahamians, we've been blocked out, and it's time for change. And so here we are back to the future, but we couldn't still understand for the life of us why the government was charging, 6 cents at a time and now $2 a metric ton at a time. It doesn't make sense because of how valuable aragonite is. Maybe they don't understand the real value of aragonite. What was going on here? So we had to dig up some more documents, and these documents are the actual documents these are the actual documents that actually permitted Ocean Key to be mined recently in 2010, and it allowed them to be mined for $2 a ton. And so for people who don't understand and didn't believe it or didn't believe that the government would do something like this is the actual documentation. You can see it there for yourself. Now, what's interesting is another page and document in all of this. This is very interesting, and this is going to change the way you see in this whole thing. And so this document made it all make sense. This document is clear as day. It instructed them that the export of aragonite was only for the purpose of restoring beaches. That's it. They were to take the aragonite from the bottom of our oceans, and the purpose of it was to take it to another place and restore beaches with it. But you see, all of these companies way back then, you heard Allison say in the 70s, they were selling to this industry and that industry, and then that's before they were in there. Now they're doing it and they're selling all these products, and everyone in between was selling all these different products. So maybe the government thought that this whole thing was just to get sand from the bottom of the ocean that we know as aragonite and restore other beaches. But the companies were taking them and doing other things with them. Maybe that is the case. And if that is the case, then maybe these companies are liable. This deserves a commission of inquiry, because this was supposed to be the savior of the Bahamas. This was supposed to be a really big deal. and it fell flat. And so what the first company did was they got us into the aragonite industry, and then they got us out of the aragonite industry right away. And now it seems like the government doesn't really know what's going on, because they're coming out and saying that there's no money in this industry. And maybe that's because they think there's no money in this industry. So maybe Paul Little Romy may feel that we can't be billionaires from this because they don't know the value of it. Or maybe they know the value and they're pretending not to know. Who knows? What I know we need is our Freedom of Information Act, because with all of this going on, I'm sure that someone in government, some smart person should have been able to see all this, and they should have been able to stop whatever is going on. If that's what's going on, we need a serious change in this country right away. And so now that you get a better understanding of how these pirates work, from political associations, from political friendships and cronyism, to finding ways to not have to pay royalties, to finding ways to just pure abuse our natural resources, now it's time to talk about what we're here for. And that is our major natural resource, and that is land. Why is our land so important? It's not because of what's in the land, but the land itself. Our Bahama land is limestone, and limestone is one of the most important resources around the world. They use it to make so many things that this documentary would be too long to really cover all of them. But everything you can think about, from everything in construction to paint and toothpaste, they use for limestone for. And so you're going to see that there have been land grabs all over this country while you were sleeping, and you're going to now find out why.
We are standing in front of the South Beach Canals in Nassau, Bahamas. These canals are connected to the Pinewood Canals and the Seabreeze Canals. This area expands from East Street straight to Beaches Avenue in Seabreeze, and it was owned and developed by Mr. Baker from the 1970s to the 1980s.
During the last Ingram administration, the government secretly purchased the canals from Mr. Baker.
These canals that you see today were once land that was dug for this precious Bahamian resource, limestone.
Where we are standing right now serves as the connector between three canals. We have the Pinewood Canals, which would be those two openings right there. That would be the South Beach Canal. And in the back, we have the Seabreeze Canal. So we are standing at what would serve as the junction between those three canals.
So right here where we're standing is in the back of Pinewood Gardens. This is a huge lake that's in the back of Pinewood Gardens and next to Seabreeze. And so this is where they dredge. This is where they made millions and millions and millions of dollars digging here. Now, when I was a young man growing up, we knew that at a certain time of day you had to go and hold the china closet, hold your dishes. Only the old people know what a china closet is, I think. But you had to hold your dishes because the earth would start to shake and rumble, because they blew explosives here in order to dig this out. So they would blow dynamite and we would feel it all the way in Pinewood Gardens where we were growing up. And so they dug this out. This used to be land. They exploded this and dug it out and did that to reap the limestone and the quarry and everything else that's in there. And they made millions. They made a lot of money while we didn't even know about it. This doesn't even show up on the Google map drawing. This doesn't show up. Why is everything so secretive in the Bahamas? These millions were being made while you slept. While you were trying to get a bank loan to build a Pinewood home, this was being done in secret. While you were just trying to get out of your apartment in Camp Road and own your own home, this is where the real money was. You were just trying to get something of your own, while they were making billions in secret. So I'm standing here in Pinewood Gardens in front of a home, and it's very peculiar that Pinewood Garden is known for being a swamp. That's what people think that Pinewood Gardens is. But little do they know that Pinewood Gardens was actually never a swamp. It was actually highland. It was hilly properties in the back of Pinewood Gardens. And that's why it was so attractive for some developers who wanted to come in and develop Pinewood Gardens. Hey, Mr. Taylor, how long were you living in the Pinewood Gardens area?
I moved into Pinewood in 1979. When I moved into this area, it was like 95% bush. No paved road, no telephone. Pinewood used to have a lot of hills. Property hills, that is, or hill property, however you want to call it. And the developers, they came in and they just cut down all the hills. All. That's something I to this day I still don't understand.
So Pinewood Gardens was not a swamp when you moved here?
No.
Wow. And so when you came here, you watched the excavation going on?
Oh yes. I had to see it because remember when I moved in, it was just bushes.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the canals in the back of Pinewood and South Beach.
Back then, you know, the canal, matter of fact, I used to take my dog in the back there, walking.
Who developed that?
George Baker.
And so as you can see, this house is on top of a hill. And this hill is probably about maybe 4 feet high. That is how high this is. This is covering most of my body. This is 4 feet high. And this is even lower than Pinewood originally was. They cut down from where you see this house is all the way down here. They cut down probably about 6, 7, 8 feet of the land and took it all as quarry. And so if you actually do the measurements to see all of this land, all of this acres and acres of land, and how deep they went down into this land, you will get an idea how much tonnage of limestone was taken away from this area. And so we're gonna just do a little quick drive through, and we're gonna actually see exactly the different areas where some of the hills still are. Pinewood Gardens was developed by Pinewood Gardens Limited. Now, many names have been associated with Pinewood Gardens over the years, and this includes Mr. Petrie, who was also the developer of Garden Hills, and also Mr. Bobby Simonet. Now, we know that Simonet name. And of course, Pinewood Gardens was not developed necessarily to be a subdivision, although that was a part of the plan. The real reason they developed Pinewood Gardens was excavation. Pinewood was hills. Pinewood was full of hills, and they decided to excavate. And they dug and they dug and they dug, and they made millions and millions, possibly billions of dollars from the limestone that they took from Pinewood Gardens. And then they realized that they went too low. And this is where the problem came in. They went too low, and so they decided to just leave it alone, that they couldn't do development anymore. And so they decided to liquidate. When they decided to liquidate, they turned it over to another company called Awak Homes. Awak Homes continued with the development, and it led to one of the biggest problems in Nassau's history. So we're standing at the back of Pinewood Gardens. This is where the Awak Homes development stopped, and this is where a lot of the excavation stopped. This is at the end of Thatch Palm Avenue. And so if you look behind me, you would see that where Pinewood stopped, you would see that there's still hills, because this is where they excavated, and this hill is actually about taller than I am. And so if you look behind here, you would see that come in. If you look behind here, you would see that this is the end of Pinewood Gardens, and this is where the excavation was. And if you can look, you can see the grading where they cut this down. They cut this down in order to get down to here. And the hill is actually taller than I am. So you're probably looking at about 7 feet, because I'm about 6 feet tall. You're probably looking at about 7 feet in height where this originally was. And we do believe that it was actually higher than that they cut down some of this too. And so if you look in the back here, this is Pinewood Gardens. And so some of the houses in the back are on hills. But this is where Pinewood comes in, and this is where the hills
are. And so what you're looking at is East Street, just south of the East Street roundabout. And so this is the road that runs between Garden Hills 1 and Garden Hills number 2. If you're old enough, you would remember that when you went south of East Street roundabout, you had to drive through two cliffs, two really high cliffs that were a part of a hill. And this is owned by, of course, Brent Simonet. And Brent Simonet excavated these hills and made lots and lots of money from the limestone in those hills. And of course, he ended it with a shopping center. But the shopping center wasn't the reason for buying those properties. The reason for buying those properties was to make the money from the property itself, from the limestone. And so what are we saying? The land wars and the land grab that has been going on in New Providence and other islands for all these years was not really about the land. It was not about developing land. It was about being able to excavate and sell the land for what it is worth. And when I say sell the land, I mean the limestone, the actual land, the dirt, the rock, the stone. That is what this has been about all this time. So while you were asleep, this is what was going on. In fact, a lot of people don't remember, but Nassau was considered to end at Wolf Road. Wolf Road used to be considered the South. And that is why Quaco Street Police Station is actually called Southern Station, because that was considered to be the southerlymost part of the island. And anything beyond that to the south was just considered wilderness. But what was really happening in this wilderness was neighborhoods, areas that we now know as neighborhoods like Pinewood Gardens, etc., were being excavated, and they were taking the material that they were getting and they were selling it for loads of money. Canals were being dug and they were selling it for loads of money. Let me give you an idea of how valuable your property is. Your property is valued more in limestone than it is in the sellable value. Watch this. Okay, so let me quickly show you how valuable your piece of property is. Most of you live in areas like Pinewood Gardens, like Garden Hills. You live in a property that is 100 feet by 50 feet. And let's say you could dig a depth like they did when they were developing Pinewood or even Garden Hills, and you could dig at least 10 feet. We know that they dug more than that, but that's what we're going to use for the purposes of this exercise. So that would give you over 2,700 tons of limestone. And so let's put it in there. So 2775.05 times the going rate of $38. So let's say your property is valued more in limestone than it can actually sell for. So if you live in a property, for example, in Pinewood Gardens, maybe it's valued $45,000 to $50,000. Your property has over $100,000 worth of limestone alone. Isn't that amazing? And so finally, I wanted you to see this quickly. So Pinewood Gardens is all of this that they developed here, okay? And so it goes from here to here. It's about 6,000 feet by about 11,000 feet, okay? We measured it over here. So it's about 11,000 by 6,000, give or take roughly, because we're just trying to get a rough number. And so if we put those numbers in our aggregate calculator, it's going to be pretty interesting. So let's put those numbers in. 6,000. So let's say they were developing the whole of Pinewood Gardens, and this is about what they got from excavating it. 6,000 by 11,000. Let's just say it's just 10 feet. And so that would give you 36 million tons of aggregate. That would give you 36 million tons of limestone. Let's put that in our calculator and see exactly what that means. That will give you 36 million times the going rate. $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion for one community that you excavated. And so let's say the numbers are inflated, and let's say it's half of that. Listen, that is a lot of money. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. Next week, we conclude our investigation of limestone as we go deep into Freeport and the Freeport Harbor at Bahama Rock. Our investigation also takes us to Andros, where we also have papers to discover, and we also have interviewed persons who have been approached by the newest land pirate. And finally, Next week, we tackle the big elephant in the room, our oil. We have the documents, we have the papers, and we are on the ground, and we have the pictures and the videos. We're going to be revealing everything about our natural resource next week.